Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and sneak peek number 3 for the House of X Pounders of 10 update is insane. It is what we expected it to be, and possibly it has transformed, it has shape-shifted into something even better. I know a lot of you out there have been potentially waiting for this character for a long time. I'm excited to tell you your prayers have been answered. Greetings, agents. This is CM Fragment here with an update about the mutant investigation, those dirty muties. We received a tip-off about some secret experiments being performed on mutants, so I went to see for myself. As I ran through the facility looking for evidence, I spotted shadowy figures, with an S, walking down a hallway. They're actually running, but okay. Who's in that shadow? We'll get to the sneak peek in a second. I suspect that there was more than one person, but it is hard to be certain in such low light. So this is actually a sneak peek for 2 characters. Yeah. These mysterious figures will be unveiled soon. Oh my goodness. So we're going to get into the sneak peek really quickly, but before I get into it, I just want to give you guys a piece of advice, because I haven't mentioned this yet in any of the teaser videos or any of the other videos. I've mentioned it on my stream, but save. Start saving now. Make sure you build up your Phoenix Feathers and your Emcron Crystals and your Emcron Shards up to the cap of 6,000. You can go a little bit over the cap if you collect something when you're at 5,999. So you can go up to like 600, 6,100 and something like that. And don't tier 3 any characters. Save up your Awakening Crystals, save up your CCF, save up your tier 3 mats. Don't upgrade characters' potentials to level 70. Get the, save all your gold, save all your black antimatter, because this update could be huge. We don't know how amazing it could be. I mean, it's going to be amazing, but we don't know how impactful in the meta it's going to be. So just that's my advice right now. To every question, just save. Who to equip a CTP to? Save it. Maybe you'll want to equip a CTP on one of these new characters I'm about to show you. So oh my god, I'm so excited. Let's take a look at this video here. The Marvel Future Fight March update sneak peek number 3. Yup. In case you missed it. Yup. That's right. Yeah. So, in case you missed it, and it'd be hard to miss, but in case you missed it, the first character we see here is Mr. Sinister. And the tweet from a few days ago has since been retweeted today, or sort of tweeted again today by the Marvel Future Fight Twitter team. And it says that something sinister is coming to Marvel Future Fight, which is, of course, Mr. Sinister. You can see the in-game model here, but the in-game model transforms, and you hear this like sound, and we see Mystique. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, that is an in-game model for Mystique. That's not an accident. So on the one hand, there is always the possibility that this is not actually going to be a playable character, because Mr. Sinister can kind of shapeshift. He can control his body at a cellular level. But looking at it and thinking about the wording of the text here, and thinking about the fact that they actually made an in-game model for Mystique, there's basically no way. So we can now confirm essentially that we are going to be getting Mr. Sinister and Mystique, along with 3 uniforms for Magneto, Wolverine, and Jean Grey, and then possibly a uniform for Sentinel as Nimrod, or Nimrod as a brand new character. This update is insane, and we still have another sneak peek, the 4th sneak peek. Hopefully, and we saw the tier 3 sneak peek. So hopefully we will see Professor X. I keep calling him Mr. Hopefully we will see Professor X. I'm holding out hope for the good professor, but this has got me really hyped. 2 mutant villains coming to Marvel Future Fight. I really hope that Mr. Sinister is either combat, speed, or universal. I don't want him to be blast. Screw that class. And Mystique will probably be speed, but she might be combat. So I'm buzzing. I'm very excited. I hope you are as well. These characters are going to be insane. They're so popular. They're so cool. I want to take a little bit of time now and talk about their powers, because I have to say, recently we've been getting characters, starting with Taskmaster, who I just think are very hard to represent accurately in Marvel Future Fight. Now, sometimes Marvel Future Fight and sometimes the devs at Netmarble don't do a very good job of expressing a character's powers. And sometimes they do a really good job of expressing the character's powers, not only in the way that the skills look and feel, but also in the way that it portrays the characters accurately. So one really good example of, you know, making a character feel really good and making the character sort of do the things that you would expect him to do is someone like Molten Man. He's, you know, made of molten lava, so he you know, melts down, but then he pops back up. He gets bigger, he gets smaller. He throws lava at you. He stamps the ground, lava comes up. You know, all of those things are quite easy to represent in the game through the animations and all of the stuff that they've done. So this kind of character is you know, so true to the comics, and you can even see the way they've designed him. There's stuff melting off of him. He's dripping lava. Like this is like high quality. This is like console level detail in terms of the character and their skills. Now, a bad example of, or an example of bad character translation from the comics and movies is the Hulk. Now, the Hulk might feel like the Hulk when you use his skills in terms of the way they're animated, you know, picking up the pavement and throwing it at you, grabbing a big rock and throwing it at you, jumping up and grabbing a helicopter and smashing you with it. Some of the punching and some of the sort of kicking down that he does now with his new Avengers Endgame uniform. But in terms of the power level and in terms of the passives and things like that, he really does not get represented well. So for someone like Taskmaster, although his power level is decent, we didn't really get what we wanted. We got sort of the diaper baby version of Taskmaster. They took the copy thing a bit too literally, in the sense that they just copied and pasted other characters' skills from Marvel Future Fight. That's kind of cute, but it sort of takes away what makes Taskmaster unique. The absolute dodge, again, is cute, but it actually isn't strong enough. So there's multiple things to balance there. You not only have to balance the flavor of the abilities and of the powers of the character, but you also have to match their power level. What makes Taskmaster so good is that you can't repeat the same attacks on him twice, because he will be able to predict them the second time and completely dodge them and avoid them. Now, I get what they were going for with this, but they had to have realized that 50% HP, he's been hit more than once by that point. And 40% guaranteed dodge is not quite enough. You got to go a little bit higher if he's going to dodge it every single time. You know, Ant-Man has 87% guaranteed dodge, so he should be a little bit higher, a little bit closer to 87%. I would have personally gone to like 60 or 65, and I would have just made it a set thing that triggers, not something that has a cooldown and can be debuffed. It should have been more of a passive rather than an active skill. So why am I explaining all of this? Well, Mr. Sinister and Mystique are two of the most difficult characters to translate into a game like Marvel Future Fight. You know, Contest of Champions, they have an easier job, in my opinion, because they can make all of the characters do the same, sort of the same kind of punching and kicking animations. Obviously, they add flavor to that with blasting and sort of stepping back and things like that, using projectiles, sure. But really, what they have to do, really the important animations for Contest of Champions and other games, is just those Special 1, Special 2, Special 3 skills, right? It's just a static animation that they need to figure out how to do, whereas in Marvel Future Fight, it's more difficult because you have to create 5 of those skills rather than just 3, or in the case of some Marvel Strike Force characters, 4, but most of them are just 3. And then the difference between Contest of Champions and Strike Force and Marvel Future Fight is that Strike Force is a static game. The characters don't move around. They're sitting there waiting for their turn, because it's a turn-based game, so it's very easy to animate someone like Mr. Sinister or Mystique. In Contest of Champions, they're not static, but they're in a 2D plane because they're stuck on this track going back and forth. So it's more difficult than Strike Force, but it's not as difficult as Marvel Future Fight. In Marvel Future Fight, you're running around in 3 different directions, right? You've got the north-south, the east-west, and then you've got the lateral movements, and the boss is moving as well, and you've got a fixed camera in a 3-dimensional space. You know, so, or whatever, 2.5-dimensional space. So it's actually really hard. Like, how are they going to animate Mystique? She's not going to be able to transform into enemies. You know, they're not going to be able to load 212 or 215 character models into Mystique. That's just not going to happen, right? And it's not going to happen because it won't even function in certain game modes. Is she going to transform into Master Mold? Like, how is that going to work in Giant Boss Fight? Is she going to transform into the Frost Beast in ABX? So certain parts of Mystique's character just will not be able to translate into the game at all, because of course Mystique's calling card is her ability to shapeshift and assume the look and the voice and the smell and everything, the mannerisms of someone else, including the clothes that they're wearing on their body, or any kind of like prosthetics that they might have. Like, she could get Winter Soldier's metal arm, etc. So that's, you know, it's just not going to work. That's not going to work in Marvel Future Fight. But if you had to ask me, they could make, and I've seen this example done a few times and I agree with it, they could make Mystique kind of like Black Widow. She's an assassin, she's fast, she's got kicking and punching, she uses guns from time to time. I think the differences between Black Widow and Mystique probably won't have lightning damage or any of this kind of Widow's Bite type stuff. Mystique does have regeneration. She can regenerate her limbs. She has like really strong healing in the comics. So I think that's something they absolutely need to reflect in the game. Mystique needs to have some way of healing, either through an active ability that she can use over and over again or through a passive ability. They definitely need to reflect that. And then, you know, who knows? In more recent comics, from what I've read, Mystique can transform her body to include things that are not necessarily human. Like she's been able to shapeshift her arms into tentacles or like blades or like knives, kind of like Carnage in a way. So we'll see if maybe she will do a little bit of that, a la Carnage in Marvel Future Fight. On the other hand, Mr. Sinister's tough. We don't really have a good example character like Black Widow and Mystique from Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister has immortality, essentially, because he can control himself at a cellular level and he can regenerate like insanely well. So he should definitely have a regenerative factor, like a passive regen, like Wolverine, Deadpool, War Tiger. Mr. Sinister also has the ability to use some telekinesis and telepathy, I believe, as well. So because of that, he should have some sort of energy projection skills, kind of like Jean Grey, or, you know, kind of like Apocalypse with some of his abilities. But, you know, other things like the sort of the calling card of someone like Mr. Sinister is the DNA splicing and the genetic manipulation and the experiments. You know, you can't really. It's hard to express that in Marvel Future Fight. What is he gonna do? Like pause the game and run over to a computer and type some stuff in, or, you know, mix some potions, like that's, or whatever, beakers? It's just not gonna work. What we probably will see, or my guess for what we'll see, I'm speculating, is we will see summons. We'll see Mr. Sinister either pop out like 2 Mr. Sinister clones, a la Sentinel, which could be really cool, or what they could do. This would be, again, really hard, a la Mystique, but it would be very, very cool if Mr. Sinister popped out clones that were the person he's fighting. Now, I thought about this briefly. I think it's possible. I think it's a bit ambitious. Maybe I'm sort of, you know, giving too much. I'm putting too much on Marvel Future Fight's plate, but, you know, you can easily have him clone all of the world bosses by identifying that that's the world boss stage that you're in and then cloning that character twice. So that's not a big deal. In the case of something like ABX or Alliance Battle, you wouldn't clone the Frost Beasts that jump out. You would clone the sort of Ultron robots that are around in the arena that get summoned wave after wave, wave after wave. So you would just get those goons come down, sort of like Ulysses Claw's summon. So I think it could work. It would be amazing. It would look so hilarious in Shadowland to go into a Shadowland stage like the She-Hulk Jessica Jones stage and then summon clones of She-Hulk and Jessica Jones and watch them duke it out. So there's huge potential, I think, for Mr. Sinister. The reason why I think it's easier for them to make summons rather than doing the Mystique thing is that with Mystique, they have to change the way your character looks. And then that means that they have to reanimate, which is why it's basically impossible, because they have to reanimate all of Mystique's skills using the skin of any other character. So that's also the reason why we don't have transferable skills. We have changeable skills in the story mode, but that's why we don't have transferable skills. So you can't choose the skills that you want, but then choose the uniform that you want. The skills are tied to the uniform because they're tied to the animations of the character, the size of the character, and the width of the character, and any sort of object they might be holding. And that's why we don't have that in Marvel Future Fight. And my guess is we will never have that in Marvel Future Fight where you can do that. Like, for example, Thanos, he's got skills that he uses with the endgame uniform where he swings the sword around or he throws it or whatever. If you equipped one of his other uniforms, but then he was doing those motions, it would look ridiculous. You'd have clipping errors and you might even crash the game. And, you know, taking the time to sort of edit that out for each individual skill, for each uniform, it would just take years. So for every character. So that's why I'm a little bit more optimistic about how hilarious Mr. Sinister could be. But I will give it up to the Marvel Future Fight and the Netmarble devs. They have done a fantastic job with characters. So I'm just really excited. Taskmaster wasn't exactly what I expected, but he was a hell of a lot closer than other games have gotten him in a sense. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of Mystique and Mr. Sinister. I, for one, am very hype. Hopefully Professor X is next. Crossing my fingers. Thank Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.